Hey guys, it's Erin again from Imperfectly Perfect You. Welcome back. As promised, today we're going to cover some of the root causes of panic disorder. Stick with me for the next few minutes, and together we'll work to understand the factors that might lead to panic disorder from a lay person's perspective. We will also talk about how panic disorder is a real mental illness. This is not a character flaw. You are not broken. You are not crazy. And learn why anyone, yes, anyone, can be affected by panic disorder. Here's the truth. We don't know the exact recipe that leads to panic disorder. However, it can generally be triggered by a number of biological, psychological, and environmental factors. First, let's address some of the psychological and environmental factors that can lead to panic disorder. For example, if you've experienced childhood trauma or some sort of big change in your life, this can cause your brain to overreact to feared situations. Personality traits like perfectionism and being oversensitive to stress can also trigger panic disorder. Chronic stress causes the body to produce what's known as the stress hormone, or cortisol. It normally is produced during fight or flight situations. However, if your body is exposed to high stress over prolonged periods of time, it can prevent your body from returning to baseline, leading to a state of chronic, unhealthy elevation in your cortisol levels. Negative thinking patterns, catastrophic thinking, these things could also trigger panic disorder. If you experience some sort of bodily sensation like your heart fluttering, a normal response might be, it's okay, this is just anxiety. However, if you're prone to catastrophic thinking, you might think instead, oh my gosh, I'm dying. That sort of thing, those sort of thought spirals is what can cause panic disorder. As for biological factors, your genetics can absolutely play a role. So if you have a parent or a sibling with panic disorder, then it increases the likelihood that you yourself could develop panic disorder. Your brain chemistry also matters. If you have any sort of neurochemical imbalances, such as low serotonin, high norepinephrine, or low GABA, these factors can all crank up anxiety, and panic can become more likely for you. If you have a weak prefrontal cortex, and don't worry, we're going to go into all of these terms. The prefrontal cortex is your brain's executive control center. And if you have a weak prefrontal cortex, then it cannot calm things down. Some of us also inherit super sensitive stress systems. If you have heightened interoception, then you might become hyper aware of bodily sensations, and you might interpret them as danger when it's not needed to be. Speaking of your alarm system, let's talk about the limbic system. Think of your limbic system like your brain's emotional and emergency center. It controls emotions, memories, and quick reactions. Here are the key players. The amygdala, which detects danger and triggers fear in response. The hippocampus, it stores memories and adds context. The hypothalamus, which regulates heart rate, hunger, and hormones. And the prefrontal cortex, which keeps emotions in check and helps you think rationally. When everything's working, if you think you spot a snake, you might jump. But then if it turns out it's actually just a rubber toy, in theory, you should calm down. Here's what happens when panic takes over. With panic disorder, the system goes haywire, even when there's no real danger. The amygdala overreacts. The hippocampus misreads memories, the hypothalamus revs up your body, the prefrontal cortex cannot hit the brakes. Suddenly, you're in full panic mode over something completely harmless. Here's the vicious cycle and how panic attacks could potentially evolve into panic disorder. After a panic attack, you start fearing the next one. This anticipatory anxiety makes you avoid places or situations and can be as tough as the attacks themselves. Left untreated, it can lead to other issues like agoraphobia. Agoraphobia is an anxiety disorder characterized by an intense, irrational fear of being in situations or places where escape might be difficult, embarrassing, or where help might not be available if panic symptoms occur. It often leads to avoiding overcrowded spaces, public transport, or leaving home alone. Over time, you start avoiding situations that might trigger panic again. You get scared of the panic itself. That fear of fear creates a loop that's hard to break. To summarize, here are some of the key takeaways from today's video. Panic disorder has real biological and psychological causes. It is not a sign of weakness. Genetics, stress, and life experiences all play a role. Anyone can be affected. The more we understand the causes, the less shame and stigma there is. Panic disorder does not discriminate. This can happen to anyone: parents, teens, teachers, veterans, athletes, artists, business executives. There's no single type of person who gets panic disorder. What we all have in common is that deep sense of confusion and sometimes shame that can result. But let me be clear, and here's the takeaway that I want you to have. Panic disorder is not a character flaw. It is not a failure. It is a real, treatable mental condition. What that means is that even if your brain is wired for panic, you can retrain your thinking and you can change your brain. I did, and I promise you that you can do it too. Other changes can assist in the process. Lifestyle changes, stress reduction, good nutrition, and sleep are some things that can help you to take back control. Most importantly, please know you're not alone. You are not broken. Keep watching, keep learning. Together we've got this. If this hit home, please drop a comment, share your stories and questions below. Let's normalize the conversation together. Thanks for watching.